You know, I've always promised to call out the mainstream media and specifically the royal rota when they are not delivering you the truth, when there is another agenda going on. That is the huge beauty in me understanding how the mainstream media works as a former executive editor of The Sun, a former columnist of the Daily Mail, working at Woke TV for 10 years, a launch presenter of GB News. And let me tell you, there is an agenda now, specifically in the Daily Mail, which we are going to expose today for not only actively promoting Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, actively being leaked stories by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, actively becoming propagandists for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle via Charlotte Griffiths, their editor at large, but now very obviously turning on Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales. We see you, the Daily Mail. And let me bring in royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz now, who is totally across this as well. Tash, why are they doing this, firstly? Like, we know it's going on, but why? Why have the Daily Mail decided we're not only going to try and rehabilitate Harry and Meghan, at the same time, we're going to try and quite subtly, we're going to do it in subtle ways because we know our audience love Catherine and William, but we're going to try and make them look as terrible as possible.
It's honestly so transparent what they're doing. It's happened at the exact time, really, that they're now trying to gaslight the public into forgetting all of the horrible, awful things that Harry did to his family. And to try and make him look better, they've now got to vilify Catherine and William. And I'm sorry, who is their target audience? Because the public is not stupid. They're not going to fall for it. Catherine and William haven't put a foot wrong. Harry and Meghan have put so many feet wrong. I mean, it's been unbelievable. It's not just that they did things wrong. They've done some awful, awful, horrible things to the royal family. And to try and now make out that Catherine and William specifically, of course, that he is the villain in all this is honestly mind-blowing. As I said, who is their target audience exactly? Because I just cannot see anybody that's pro-monarchy will ever turn around and say, oh yes, Harry's definitely a victim here, nasty, mean Prince William. And the Daily Mail are definitely spearheading this new campaign.
Well, they are, because of course we've proven, haven't we, how Charlotte Griffiths became the propaganda last August, led up to the big royal reconciliation. But then this week alone, Tash, we've seen the Daily Mail really go for William and Catherine over their potential choice of holiday. Then also there's a lot of people who are saying even the story about potentially moving into Fort Belvedere, their potential new home in Windsor, was very much written in a manner, Tash, where it was trying to paint them as being somehow extravagant. Like, look at the headline, upsizing William. There was a lot of focus on the fact that this property had a pool and had a tennis court, for example. Well, can I just remind everyone, Tash, they're currently in Adelaide Cottage, which doesn't even have room for their nanny to stay. Okay, so to try and paint William and Catherine in that light, I mean, I agree with you that that's what they're doing, but it's not going to work, is it?
Did Prince Harry just hold the royal family to ransom? Multiple outlets say the Duke of Sussex has fired off an ultimatum: give me fresh financial support or I'll drop Spare 2.0. Translation? Cash, titles, or another literary carpet bombing. If true, Harry has gone from renegade prince to full-blown blackmailer. And tonight, we're breaking down what he wants, why William's ice-cold silence matters, and how Meghan's disappearing act could be the biggest clue of all.
No, of course it's not. And as you said, that's a great thing to mention. Adelaide Cottage, they've been more than happy there. Their nanny Maria, who's been loyal and with that family since they decided to start a family, she doesn't work for them full time anymore. She nips in and nips out as of when she is needed. Catherine and William handle everything by themselves. They don't have chefs, they do not have staff. I mean, I'm sure they've probably got a cleaner that comes in and gives them a hand. But aside from that, there is nothing grand about that property when you compare it to some of the other royal residences. And it is very much all in the wording. And whilst they are saying Catherine and William are looking for a grander property. They're obviously trying to make the public angry towards them, thinking, in a cost of living crisis, the last thing you want to read about is a prince and princess. Oh, which castle will I choose next? Which mansion shall I move to? It's designed to infuriate the public. And Catherine and William, even in that article, haven't said they are moving there. It's one of their considerations, if that is even true. Now, unless someone is in the room with Catherine and William, how would this reporter know exclusively what Catherine and William are thinking of doing or where they're thinking of moving to? I find this story a bit too vague, and not forgetting that they also tried the exact same storyline in 2021, I think 2022. Fort Belvedere has come up a few times since the billionaire passed away, but his family still live there and they had a 99-year lease.
Yes, exactly. And remember, Tash, one of the issues with all of this is the fact that actually, of course, at some point, William and Catherine are going to need a base for when they become king and queen, and where they live is going to be very, very significant. Now, my feeling is that it probably won't be at Buckingham Palace. This is very controversial, but we know King Charles doesn't want to go back there ever. He doesn't want to live there ever. He wants to stay at Clarence House. The fact that he's suffering from cancer makes it very unlikely that there's going to be too much pressure for him to move there. And William and Catherine, the Daily Mail claims, and I think this is correct, were considering taking a wing of Windsor Castle, which actually would be very simple for everyone and far cheaper and all of that type of thing. But that option has been taken off the table by the royal family. And there's loads of reasons why, Tash, because it's all about the upkeep of the castle. Is there the space? Is there work that needs to be done? And actually, I think it's responsible. It's the responsible thing for Catherine and William to be thinking about where are we going to be based when we become king and queen. And it's quite clear, I would say, that they're leaning towards Windsor. Nothing wrong with that.
Yes, no, of course not. I mean, it would be the perfect base for them. They've already said that they wanted to be there. It's close to the children's schools.
The late Queen loved it. She loved being at Windsor Castle.
The children loved it. They loved spending. They used to love time spending, with the Queen and Prince Philip. I mean, it's a beautiful estate. It's beautiful grounds, and it's ideally situated. And I do think, obviously, that once they become king and queen and in the preparation to them becoming, of course, they're going to need a bigger property. They'll need staff on hand as well. Their responsibilities will increase tenfold. And then, of course, they'll still want to spend time with their children. It looks like George will be off to Eton, I believe. That was up in the air for a bit. And obviously Charlotte and Prince Louis, they're that little bit younger. And I think that they're perfectly happy where they are. I do think this story has been thrown into the mix again because they know that the public at the moment is going through a very serious cost of living crisis. And it's a great way to try and vilify the royal family and get, obviously, public backlash.
Tash, you've posted on this whole Daily Mail debacle, writing on X, the Daily Mail showing their hand again. While trying to rehabilitate Harry, they are trashing Prince William. This story is designed to upset the public, especially at a time when most are struggling financially and the housing crisis is becoming worse. But if you read the story, there are two words that stand out: considering and options, as in they are potentially thinking about moving one day but are undecided. So this is another non-story then. They just picked a huge mansion on the estate that has lots of grounds, 2 lakes, several staff, cottages to make Prince William look out of touch, despite the fact the family have lived happily inside Adelaide Cottage with no staff for a few years. Also, the Weston family live at the Belvedere Mansion. They have done so for years and have spent a lot of money on renovations. There has been no news of them moving elsewhere, so I'm not sure I believe this to even be true. The media can't handle William cutting them off, so are gunning for them. It's so obvious at this point. And by contrast, Father of the Heir, the man who in Spare said King Charles was not ready for the responsibilities of fatherhood, Harry likes to spend an awful lot of time away from his children. This isn't the first time he's gone off comms and unable to be contacted. And the contrast, Tash, is so clear. But what's interesting, why I wanted to go through your words there, Tash, is because I think that's a very strong theory. That in fact, what the Daily Mail has realised is, okay, Harry and Meghan are prepared to give us access now, and William is not. Now, that's very scummy of them, but it does suggest that there is another motivation in terms of why the coverage is going this way.
Reporters inside Kensington's media bubble claim Harry is dangling hundreds of unpublished pages, new fights, private finances, perhaps even Camilla's personal correspondence, as leverage. Remember how Spare sold 3.2 million copies in its first week? Publishers are salivating for a sequel. Harry knows it, the palace knows it, but calling this speaking his truth misses the point. You don't demand hush money for honesty. That's not catharsis. That's extortion in hardback. King Charles faces a lose-lose gridlock. Hand over funds, and he confirms the firm can be shaken down. Refuse, and the monarchy risks a second scorched earth PR war. Right when slimmed, down royals are trying to focus on duty, not drama. Insiders say Camilla is incandescent after last year's portrayal. Royal lawyers have already dusted off NDAs. Meanwhile, Prince William's response is a masterclass in controlled burn. Total radio silence. Courtiers say he's finished playing therapist for a brother who turns therapy sessions into chapter headings.
Of course, the words scummy and certain tabloids have always gone hand in hand. It's dirty tactics, really, isn't it? And I think they've only got themselves to blame. Whilst I think Prince William has always been a lot more guarded, I think after the relentless attacks on Catherine, not just when we found out that she had cancer, but even before that, they all started whipping up a frenzy and public opinion when Catherine wasn't seen for some time after recovering from a major operation. We didn't know she had cancer then, but the newspapers were talking about the fact that they had spoken to doctors and abdominal surgery in the recovery time. So they were already trying to whip up a storyline about the fact that Catherine hadn't been seen. There were a few little drops and comments of Catherine and William, of course, on social media, aided a lot of the conspiracy rumours. But then, obviously, with the Mother's Day photograph, they went to town on Catherine. I have never, ever seen that much scandal coming from the media all around the world, laying into Catherine over a few tiny edits to improve a photograph of the children, a zip, a button, a finger. I mean, they had crime scene analyst experts that had previously worked with the police to take apart that photograph pixel by pixel, and there were weeks of this. And then, of course, with the videos of Catherine being spotted, they ran stories talking about Christopher Boozy, saying it was all fake. And of course, it was a lot of pressure already on Catherine and William. And I can't imagine the stress it added on Catherine, thinking these people are saying all of these awful things about me. No wonder Prince William has decided to keep a ring of steel, as it were, around his family. But this, again, is where we are seeing the real shift. They have like a couple of chosen photographers that they use. We've seen lots of photographs this year of Prince William on his birthday, Prince George on his birthday. There was a lovely one released of Catherine and Prince Louis, his little gappy toothless grin. And these were all taken from the same photo shoot by Josh Shiner, and gradually released. They are not having photo calls anymore. They are managing how much access that they have to their family, and rightly so. And I think the media is pissed about it.
What's hilarious, Tash, is there's also a political dimension to this. And it does feel to me, actually, like even though she can be completely crazy in her claims, it does feel to me like the Daily Mail is giving in to the woke left mob, because Narinder Kaur is actually claiming credit for the fact that they went for Catherine and William because she had been calling out the fact that they hadn't been covering the story. Now, this is what she posted, Tash. Pretty wild coincidence that I tweet how royal reporters have been silenced about a certain royal couple, and suddenly the tabloids, well, the Daily Mail, is splashing yacht pics like it's Love Island. Clarence House, if you're watching, I see you seeing me. Also, shout out to the unnamed broadcasters, ITV Show and BBC, who suddenly stopped calling after my observations on the royal family. Is it true, being told by a journalist at the Express, that certain royals had a word and got me quietly blacklisted from the BBC and ITV because the timing suspicion, if true, that's wild, Kensington Royal. Now, okay, Tash, this is quite funny on the one side because it's like, Narinder, I think King Charles and Prince William and Catherine and Camilla have better things to do than calling up the British Bashing Corporation and Woke ITV to get you banned. However, what it does show you, Tash, is that there is this left-wing element to all of this hard left element pressuring the Daily Mail. Why are you treating William and Catherine in this way? And I do think it probably did make a difference, because this wild goose chase that the Daily Mail went on around the Greek island was totally bizarre, completely bizarre, and not something, by the way, that they ever do when Harry and Meghan go on holiday.
No, I guess they didn't know, maybe. I don't think Narinder was the one that gave him that little tidbit, though. I don't think that anybody was trying to hide the fact that Catherine and William had gone on holiday. Perhaps they weren't sure of the destination. I actually think it was a woman that came forward that said that she was convinced that she had seen them when she was on a holiday in Kefalonia, I think it was, and she was convinced that she saw them on a yacht. And I think that's what actually caused the snowball to start rolling, I guess it was. But with Dorinda, the fact that ITV have stopped calling her and the BBC, I think that's got more to do with the fact that she's a vile rage baiter that uses racism at the drop of a hat. She seems to get a lot of coverage because she's constantly rage baiting people. She comes out with the most outrageous things. But yes, I doubt that Narinder is on King Charles, Catherine and William's radar. That's for certain. But yes, they have gone over and above now that they caught wind of this story, trying to make out that Catherine and William, I think some of the stories were that they had taken a freebie luxury holiday off certain royals, and they're just constantly trying to vilify this couple. It's the summer holidays. They've taken their children to Greece and they wanted some privacy, and they've gone on a yacht. I mean, it's not exactly something that the average member of the public can afford to do. But, why are they constantly trying to find ways to attack this couple who have just gone on holiday with their children, like millions of other couples all around the world in the school holidays?
Curiously, Meghan Markle is nowhere near this headline. No supportive podcast monologue, no glossy lifestyle post. Just chatter about relaunching her brand under Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Prawn analysts whisper she's pivoting to solo deals, fearful that a second memoir could nuke any remaining credibility. If Harry pulls the trigger and the book bombs, the fallout won't just hit Buckingham. It'll crater every Sussex-branded venture from California to Cannes. So, what's left to reveal that's deadlier than Afghan kill counts and frostnip? Options: private royal ledgers, Camilla's pre-wedding correspondence, or worst case, fresh Meghan versus Kate claims that reignite the racism narrative. Royal sources insist there are lines Harry was begged not to cross the first time. A sequel suggests those lines just became bargaining chips.
And Tash, exactly. And the reason it's so transparent, though, is because of the complete propaganda-like coverage, Goebbels-like coverage that they are currently providing to the fake Duke and Duchess. And you made this point very nicely about the latest ridiculous piece of propaganda from Charlotte Griffiths about, oh my God, Harry is sharing his diary, even though actually Prince William isn't going to be able to see it. And you posted, Harry's household has agreed to draw up, the grid of his diary movements. How gracious of him. And obviously you're being facetious there, Tash, because the point is, it's like, how on earth are you spinning this as some type of major concession? But every single week now, there is this non-stop drumbeat coming from the Daily Mail, pressuring to such a degree King Charles and Prince William. Now, Prince William is made of sterner stuff, but Charles looks very closely at what the Mail is saying.
Yes, I mean, it is something that every single day there seems to be a new article. It is transparent. It is obvious what they are doing. I'm not so sure that the king is as weak as what they try and make him out to be. I mean, this whole peace offering, I just want to go back to that quickly because it is just so ridiculous and it's so arrogant that Harry's peace offering, anybody peddling this storyline, that this is a gracious thing that he's done. He's said that he doesn't want to be controlled by the royal machine anymore. That's not changed. But he is willing to give his movements, his diary whereabouts to the royal family so they can coordinate their diaries so not to clash. I mean, that's a level of arrogance that yet again is truly mind-blowing when it comes to Harry. He's sort of events that he does, his PR stunts, he's not even in the same league as what the royal family do. But this is where I say Charles, I don't think is as weak as what people think. He has completely cut Harry off. That wasn't a father and son meeting, was it? That was aides. And it was the first meeting that has been held for a long time. And what does Harry do? He knocks Queen Camilla off the front pages for her birthday, doing another stunt involving Diana. So you can imagine for people that are obviously still very aware of the whole Charles and Diana affair, the whole triangle, and then on Camilla's birthday, we've got pictures of Harry cosplaying Diana. He did it very deliberately. So I think the king is not going to be stupid, that Harry has no intentions of stopping his war against Camilla, as well as William and Catherine and anyone else that he perceives has done him wrong.
But Tash, I do worry there's something more sinister though, because this week it's spread outside of the Daily Mail. Because look, within the Daily Mail, you can say, okay, I agree with everything that you're saying. There are, I guess, commercial reasons for them to do this. They're giving in to the woke left mob. They're unhappy about the access that William has taken away from them and all of that. But, you know, the Daily Telegraph has always been the pro-royal newspaper, the pro-monarchy newspaper. It was always the newspaper that the late Queen Elizabeth II would read first. And then this week we got this ludicrous column from Eleanor Mills, very, very experienced journalist, who has, by the way, met Queen Camilla. You know, she has been pictured with Queen Camilla. She knows the royal family. This is a serious player in British journalism, former senior executive at the Times newspaper, piling the pressure on the king and Prince William with this column headline, "The King and Prince should embrace the Duke of Sussex's peace offering before it is too late." That is what family, royal or not, is about. And it was an incredibly over-the-top, strident column. Tash, you posted on this. I'm sorry, what? The royals should embrace Harry's peace offering? What peace offering after everything he's done? All of the lies, allegations, and further threats. His offering is sharing his diary so they can arrange their calendars around his movements. Arrogant, bell end. I think that's what you were saying, Tash, with those two emojis. I'm just going to assume. I'm sure you wouldn't be so rude. But it's like, you see why I think this is more sinister, Tash, because this has spread now outside of the Daily Mail and is now in the Daily Telegraph. They're acting as if they're the Guardian. Part of me thinks this is great. People just need to turn off the mainstream media altogether. They can't be trusted. They're turning on our royal family. But I was still absolutely shocked that the Daily Telegraph went down this path.
It was a shocking article, and like you said, I mean, this isn't your average Sussex squaddy, pro Charlotte Griffith sort of writer, and I'm honestly quite shocked that anybody who is obviously a fan of the royal family can say that it's again the King and William that should show Harry forgiveness. They should welcome him back. He's never stopped attacking them since he left. He wanted a life of freedom. He went about it a horrible way. You know, they did do a runner. They didn't tell the Queen. Then they made a list of demands, but they got what they wanted. The Queen said, okay, I prefer you to stay here with us, but I respect the fact that, you know, we still love you. but, you know, this is the path that you've chosen. And then they waged war against the royals. And it's been every single year, from the memoirs to the Netflix documentaries. I mean, it's been relentless, hasn't it? Oprah, 2 Oprah shows, the podcast. And as I said, even recently, the BBC interview that Harry did, he's still throwing bombs at his family, accusing his father of being responsible for stopping the security assessment being carried out. His father got in the way of that happening. That's what he implied. Alongside the storyline, there's people in the royal household that want him dead. And this isn't a man that wants peace with his family. I think more than likely, it seems that Harry is trying to say to his family, I need money off you. I need recognition, or there's a good chance that I'm going to start doing more interviews again, maybe writing Spare 2.0. There seems to be a real shift in Harry that's happened so quickly that the media are just jumping on saying that he wants peace with his family, but he clearly doesn't. He doesn't want peace with his family. Otherwise, he would stop attacking them. He'd stop running to the media. He'd stop giving exclusives to Charlotte Griffiths. He doesn't want peace. He wants war. So I'm very surprised at some of these other more serious writers, shall we say, jumping on this bandwagon of trying to pressure the King and Prince William.
And it wasn't just, I mean, I think that's fabulous analysis, Tash, I really agree. But it was also, I mean, shame on the Telegraph. I'm just so shocked that I'm saying this. So much is changing, because I don't know if you also saw, Tash, but they put this incredibly scandalous and salacious story about Princess Margaret potentially being left with fetal alcohol syndrome from the Queen Mother's drinking. They put that on the front page of their newspaper this week. Now, this is based on, I would argue, a real supposition in this new biography, Princess Margaret and the Curse, an inquiry into a royal life. And they say that Princess Margaret was left with fetal alcohol syndrome from the Queen Mother's drinking. And that this biographer claims that the condition could have played a significant role in the princess's personality. Now, fetal alcohol syndrome, not much was known about it at the time, of course, but what Meryl Seacrest, the author, has done is re-examine the princess's personality and personal struggles in light of greater knowledge about the condition. Well, hang on a moment. I mean, yes, the Queen Mother liked a gin, certainly liked her wine, liked her port. But if you're suggesting that Princess Margaret had fetal alcohol syndrome, then are you also not suggesting that the late Queen Elizabeth II may have also had fetal alcohol syndrome? And I think you'll agree, Tash, that the way that Princess Margaret and Queen Elizabeth II lived their life was very different, but in part by the fact that one was obviously the monarch and the other was the spare. And obviously, as we've seen with Harry, there can be pressure on the spare. But again, I just found this quite an extraordinary editorial decision by the Daily Telegraph to start trashing the Queen Mother. Can we just remember, Tash, the Queen Mother was the woman who stayed at Buckingham Palace as the Nazis bombed London so that she could look the East End in the face. And now the Daily Telegraph, the pro-royal newspaper, deciding to suggest that she gave Margaret fetal alcohol syndrome. I just think it's astonishing.
I saw the article come up and I refuse to read it. There's certain articles that I just don't want to, because I think it's disgusting. I think you're trashing this family yet again, but to do something, to talk about something as personal as that, I know there's always going to be authors doing these books, but like you said, for the Telegraph to be releasing that like it's fact, rather than it actually being, you know, this is just someone that has written another book. There's plenty of books out there. You only have to go to the royal section in any big bookstore. There's an abundance of them, and it doesn't necessarily mean, much like Spare, that everything you read is true. But I thought it was quite malicious, really. And as I said, I refused to read it. But I do wonder, and this is just me, that we're under a new government, and it would seem that they, you know, not necessarily, I would say, pro-monarchy. And we're seeing at a time when we're also seeing a lot of the newspapers switching. Like you said, the Telegraph is one that has always been fairly pro-monarchy. And to see these relentless attacks on Catherine and William, we saw ones about the king, it was to do with the gardeners. And then, of course, this now going for Margaret and the Queen Mother, which is absolutely diabolical, really, because they can't defend themselves. There's nobody around that's alive anymore to say whether this is true. But there has been a real shift in politics, and there has been a real shift with seeing this. I think it is reflecting now on the attacks that we are seeing against the royal family and certain media outlets joining in.
Here's the reality check. Every threat tightens the exile. The palace now sees negotiations as weakness. William sees a brother he no longer recognizes. The public sees a prince swapping duty for dollars. Cross this bridge, and there may be no way back. What do you think? Is Harry exposing injustice or playing high-stakes emotional blackjack? Tap your take in the comments. Hit like if you're done with royal ransom notes, and subscribe for straight-up coverage. No courtiers, no fluff, just the facts behind the crowns.